All right. So we are about to officially start.
So I be trying not to.
Yeah, I'm sure once we get involved, you
Okay.
start talking, you're going to become natural.
Okay.
So, Cavanware, Fresh Aire Network Podcast Studio, thank you again. Once again, I am here in Atlanta. And as I stated before, and all the rest of the podcasts, is that I want to make sure that I document the people that I'm coming in contact with, the folks I'm doing business with, the things I'm discovering, and basically what I have going on moving forward. So today we are going to have a special guest, and this special guest is Barbara. Hello, Barbara. How are you?
Babe.
All right. All right. We're going to laugh the next couple of podcasts because your nervousness or whatever, not even nervousness, your reservedness
Yes, I
is going it's going to dissolve. But without further ado, what we want to do today is talk about you and, of course, some of the things that you and I have talked about and when we first met, which she's my neighbor, and just kind of sparked up a conversation. And every time we did talk prior to that, bubbly, lively. I would see you cleaning up the street, and I didn't know you then, but just a good example of a neighbor and a person that's in the community that's not only acting or talking, but acting on it. So I want to thank you for that because I will always see you, but I didn't know you. I was kind of a little taking, just, surveying my neighborhood first before I reached out there. But what we want to do today is two things, and I always say this to the audiences, and then also when we are talking, make sure that we include them.
Yes.
Yeah. So I didn't go through that training piece.
Okay.
I should have went through that in the beginning, but that's what this is all about, is actually giving Barbara an opportunity to see from start to finish what the production looked like. She is actually starting her own podcast. All right.
I am excited about that.
Yeah. So, like I said, I always want you guys to be informed. And if you want to start a podcast and or do something with your business or profession, then this is how the process is. I talk to the barbers. We talk a couple of times, 3, 4, 5 times, and then we start to hash out some of your objectives that you want to do. And without further ado, we can get into those objectives. So you are starting a podcast. This is kind of like the pilot.
This is my intro.
Yes, yes. So Barbara, if you could tell the listeners and the audience and your potential fans and clients and members first of all, who are you?
Okay.
And then a little bit of history about who you are.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start with a little story. My family and I, we moved from Washington State, which is the West Coast, and we moved to Georgia, the South. We made our move in 1971. 1971 was a significant year for me. 1971 was my original year that I was to graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And with the move here, it didn't work out that way.
Okay.
At the end of the school year, they informed me that I would not be able to graduate. And not only would I not be able to graduate, but I had to repeat my senior year over. And so that was a real blow for me at 17. And also, 1971 was just, like I say, a significant year for me. I had gotten pregnant in my junior year in high school, and I had worked very hard to keep up with my work and classes and everything so that I could graduate. So when they told me I couldn't graduate the year that I was originally supposed to, it was a real heartbreaker for me. But anyway, I went on to tell my daddy that I wasn't going to be able to graduate and that I had to repeat my senior year over with.
Mm-hmm. And the reasonings, did you want to start because you was pregnant, or you say you kept up with your...
I hadn't had my daughter and
Okay.
everything like that. I had her in 1970, but we made the move in 1971.
Got it.
And in 71, 70 was finishing up my senior year. I would have graduated in 1971. Graduation is in June or whatever like that. My father decided to move us to Georgia in April. But it didn't work out with transferring credits from, I guess, the West Coast to the South
Got
and
it.
everything.
Classic.
And so that's when I was informed that I would not be able to graduate that particular year. And not only that, I had to repeat my senior year over with. And anyway, my daddy, me and him had a discussion about that and everything. And he seemed to think that it wasn't a big deal, that I had to repeat my senior year over, and everything like that.
Okay, it cut deep, didn't it, Barbara? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got it. So,
that was irritating.
So you have brothers and sisters?
I have brothers and sisters. I have 2 brothers, and I have 3 sisters.
Okay. And then, so you guys moved to Georgia.
I moved to Georgia.
And how was that experience coming from the West Coast to...
Culture shock.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Definitely a culture shock.
All right. See, what was the shock? And just give me top 2 things.
Just relating to the people. Of course, we actually, in 1971, I still believe that Atlanta, Georgia was slow in comparison
to West Coast?
Coming from the West Coast.
Yeah, even though you was a senior. Yeah, that's...
And all my upbringing had been from the West Coast. And so I was used to dealing with a lot of different ethnic groups. But the culture shock, I wasn't used to dealing with my people, because when we first came to Atlanta and Daddy took us around the city, this was the first time we had seen that many black folks in our life. Okay. And they weren't receptive,
It's because they...
Just because of the different culture, because of the different upbringing, we didn't talk like them. I remember one thing that used to really get on us. I don't think it's as bad now, but we used to go to the store and ask for a pop. They offered us a blow pop, Tootsie Roll pop. And we was actually talking about
soda.
Soda.
Yeah, and they
called them drinks.
Right.
At that time.
Orange drink. Grape drink.
But drinks to us was alcohol.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm from the Midwest, and we grew up saying pop.
Right.
And that's what it was. Pop. Period. Yeah. So now let's talk about your experience after you got here. Got sort of acclimated, and then you had your child. Prior to that, what was your background like as far as professional?
Well, like I said, when we first moved here, I was graduating from high school. During the process, after I graduated from high school, I decided that I was going to go into nursing. Okay. So nursing was my career, and I graduated from nursing in 1975.
Okay, and you was a nurse for how long?
I started in 1975, and I'm still a nurse because I keep my license updated and everything, but I retired in 2011 from nursing.
Wow, okay. So I'm going somewhere with this. Okay. I'm wanting to give them a snippet of who you are, but also get to the meat and potatoes on perhaps why you're doing your podcast and what you have to offer and what the podcast is going to be about. Now, so nursing, 2011, retire, yay.
Yay. And I believe I was 58 when I retired.
Good job. So 58, and that was 13 years ago, give or take.
13 years ago.
And inside of that 13 years, let's talk about what are some of the things that you have done. And I'm bringing up that point because so many times people think that once they retire, it's over, or they don't know how to reinvent themselves, or they don't have a resource or a background or environment that's conducive to helping them understand that they still have life to live. So let's talk about, if we could, what were some of the things you did in those 13 years after you? And then, maybe speak on how you reinvented yourself, if you did.
Well, actually, I started reinventing myself before I retired.
Good job.
I actually
I think you should look at them when you say that.
I actually reinvented myself before I retired. Um, I knew what I wanted. I really just wanted peace of mind. And working, I know everybody on these jobs, policy, procedures, you know, office politics and everything. But I decided that I really wanted to get out of the workforce. But of course, then you got to have a plan. And so I started studying finances and so forth like that. And a new world opened up for me. I realized that I could actually have the lifestyle that I wanted, that I didn't have to work. And I think people have a sort of different opinions of retiring. And of course, through my studying and everything, I realized that retiring does not mean that you just come home and sit down. It's actually you get to do what you want to do, when you want to do, without any unnecessary restrictions. And so that's what happened for me. I got involved in the community more. I've always been in the community, involved in the community. I moved over here where I'm at in 1988.
Okay. Now, what are those? And now I want to, more importantly, give people examples while you're telling your story and give them ideas on some of the things you've done, why did you do it, and be a little bit more specific. For instance, being involved in the community. There's so many different ways. Can you talk about, I know you're a crossing guard now. You were part of the community when it came to the block. We call it Block Club in Chicago, but I know they call it a little different here.
Okay.
So let's speak on that, how you were already involved in it prior, and then it just made more time and space so you can be more of who you are, obviously. So let's talk about that. And I'm saying that because I know a lot of individuals, and you do too. That was some of the reasons we had dialogue about once you leave that world of going to a job, if you haven't cultivated, or if you had cultivated any kind of thing, you probably gonna do more of that thing. Right. So speak on, if you could, how did you get involved in the community?
Well, the community itself, I started just with our organization on the street, and becoming involved in the community was a real eye-opener. I've always believed in voting, but when you really have time to get involved and go to meetings and events, you realize that you need to be voting for a purpose. I started researching my candidates, and I started finding out actually, where our tax dollars go. And I know people talk about the government, they take our money, they do this and they do that. But when you become engaged and understand the process that city officials, politicians, and everybody has to go through, you sort of realize that, okay, my tax dollars go here. It gives you an opportunity to receive some of those tax dollars back, because the information is so wide. I learned about property taxes, exemptions. And it's amazing that they don't teach us any of this stuff in school. And if you're not engaged or involved, then you miss out on a lot of opportunities not being involved in your community.
Yes, I think they used to call it civics classes.
Right.
Civics, they didn't even do it when I was in high school.
Okay.
So civics is the way in which civilization, I'm paraphrasing obviously, operate.
Right.
And some of the civics of learning and teaching our children at an early age, first of all, what the system is.
Right.
How does the system work? What role you play in the system, and more importantly, how you can affect it.
Right.
So this, I say civics, that's just a label that we can put out there. So once you started understanding and learning that, and you found out how it worked, and then you found out how much power you have
Right.
as an individual, as a citizen, as a community leader,
Right.
you've obviously understood that, well, we do got some power.
Yes, we do.
You do have some power in the information that you're receiving.
Right.
I went to, and I am a part of the community.
Right.
I go to the meetings now and all that good stuff. And it's amazing, just a little small example, coming down our street
Right.
and that water
Right.
that was coming out. And it had been going on.
Ever since January 26th, when I first called it in.
Do you follow me? Is the person who actually called it in to a passerby looking at the water, wondering like, that's different.
Right.
It was different because you didn't see where the source was coming from.
Right.
And it was there every day.
Right, and it was during the time when we were receiving all the rain. And I know when I first called it in, I thought it was just one side, and it ended up being two sides.
That side wasn't as much as this side.
Right.
Yeah. So just that example of not only who called it in, me understanding that it is up to us to call.
That's it.
Also, when we was in that meeting, we were speaking about the woman who lives right next to the water,
Right.
and how it didn't affect her bill.
Right.
It affected somebody's bill, I'm sure.
Right, I'm sure.
But
in the long run, we're
right.
going to pay for it.
The whole point is that even learning that process, who is affecting, who actually thought enough to call, who lived right across from the water, was it affecting her, that it can affect her.
Right.
So arbitrarily, while you're in these meetings, you get to learn who do you talk to, who do you call, what the follow-up is,
Right.
who is the person that's authorized to fix this challenge or issue, because the streets might be different from the trees that fail. So
Exactly.
small but intricate things like that is very important, especially when it's happening to you.
Right.
Tree fall, a tree in my backyard just fell not too long ago. So I'm sharing this because Barbara, I appreciate you. And I'm saying that to say that you were the example of me seeing that if somebody's picking up paper and I knew where you lived a little bit, and you way down at the end of the block
Right.
picking up paper, which made me like, somebody cares. And that is all about community, is always how you spending your time. Right. So I want to commend you on that, first of all.
Well, thank you.
And then also give an example to the listeners about when you say that you're involved in the community and how you're involved in the community, how can they take that example of the water or the tree piece,
Right.
who they call, who cared, who didn't,
Right.
and that it's fixed.
Right. And that's one of the things that engage. We have to be engaged as a community, because we seem to think that it's always somebody else's responsibility. And it is their responsibility, but we have to be engaged in order to let them know. I mean, once you really realize how big a city is, you can't expect for city officials, the mayor, whoever, city council, to be at all these places. So it takes the community to get involved, to let them know, like, okay, we have streets over here that you need to look at, and it is a process for everything. And this is how I now do not feel like I'm basically being ripped off by my government, because I now understand the part that I play in. I understand the part I play in. Although you do have to hold them accountable, and they know who votes. And that's another thing that I learned, is that they have a website. They are tracking who is voting, who is not. if you're a registered voter, you need to vote. And I've been real disappointed with turnout with voting because they give you the percentage. 100% of people registered to vote. Only 20% of people turn out to vote. And that's really a high number. And then I hear people outside of the community or even in the community complaining about this. Oh, they should have did this and they should have did that. But then I'm saying, but did you show up to vote? Did you voice your concern? Who have you talked to? And so you have to get involved in order to get your voice heard.
Get involved, yes. Educate yourself about the system and how it affects you, yes. Also, give a damn.
Right, right.
And I say that because it does start from the top down. Top down meaning parents.
Right.
Parents want to discuss it with the children on dropping paper in front of the house. And, or who gonna pick that up? You picking that up?
Yeah,
No.
because children don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see you do.
Absolutely.
And if their parents are throwing, oh, baby, leave that paper there. I have actually been picking up litter through the community and everything like that. And the little kid, you know, they're children. You know, they are adaptable. And they'll see me pick it up and they'll start picking up stuff and putting it in my bag. And their parents say, leave her alone. Don't pick that stuff up. But it's in front of your house.
Yeah. Yeah. So where we can go down the pipeline and the reasonings on how people who are ignorant to how things work act. And I do stress the ignorant part. Not that they're bad people. It's just they hadn't been taught. And if you're not taught something, then it's hard to have some kind of reverence for it or respect for it and anything like that. So let's go a step further now. So you want and am doing a podcast on finance, and I thought it was very noble of you to do that because there's a disconnect in the, I'm gonna be frank, the people who been in this world, been through life way longer than most, and they have insight, experience, they still matter, they still have gusto, they still want to have fun.
Right.
So how do we bridge the conversation and the communication between that of older individuals and younger individuals? Now, I will put this caveat on there. I think this is so much more important now in 2024 because of the times we're living in.
Right.
Now, what times am I speaking of? I grew up with my grandmother. My grandmother was much older than me.
Good.
You follow? So that whole timetable where you spent time with your grandmother because your mom was at work or your daddy was at work, and then that tutelage of the switches and snaps and being respectful and all that good stuff, that is very intricate in a person's life, in my opinion.
Right.
And I think that's also where it's the first interaction where younger individual look up to older individual, is because you have that respect and that transformation of information going back and forth, that ideally that kid knew that it was for their benefit because their grandparents loved them. They know that. So the question I'm asking you is, what made you decide to want to do a podcast? And more importantly, what made you want to do a podcast to speak about finance, and what was the origin of it, basically?
Well, I get a lot of questions from people that I've known during the years. Some of them knew me when I first started my journey, acted like, they used to tell me, oh, she always acted like she's going to have money, that she's going to be rich, because I kept my head in a book. audiobook, going to seminars and everything. And then when I finally did retire, everybody just looked at me like, you're not going to be able to make it. All of a sudden, just because I retired, I went broke
Right.
or something like that. But now I have those same people coming back to me. I guess they thought, after a few years, or whatever, even a few months, that, oh, she'll be back. She'll be back. She's not going to be able to make it out there without a job. And so now I have people asking me. And then, of course, I try to tell them that there's really just 4, maybe 5 simple, basic steps to follow in order to be in control of your life.
And tune into a podcast for those 4 pivotal.
That's right. And of course, it's not easy, but it's simple. But I know when I was looking for all these answers, I think if somebody would just give me the steps, then I would follow the steps. And of course, finances and economics and all of that things have changed since I first started studying money. But it's simple. And the steps have not changed since the beginning of time. I used to think that, being able to live the lifestyle that I want to, I just didn't want to be restricted by a job. I love working. In fact, I'm one of those people that always had 2 jobs, 2.5 jobs. So I don't have a problem with working. It's just all the restrictions that they try to put on you. Like if you ask for a day off, oh, well, we're not going to be able to give you that day off, Why not? And so I just wanted to be able to work when I wanted to work and be able just to enjoy life. And I've been able to do that just by following 4 to 5 little simple steps. And once you learn those steps, you just repeat them over and over and over.
Thank you, Barbara, for that. So who is your target audience when it came to you coming up with this podcast?
Well, I think it's going to be for anybody who wants to, expand on their personal finances. But I'm especially want to target my 50, 60, and 70-year-old because I run into too many people who think that, oh, life is over. Well, if I was 20, I would do this. If I was 30, I would do this. You can start late and still finish with whatever lifestyle you want. In fact, our life expectancy at 50, 60, 70 years old, you're going to live to at least be 90. If you take care of yourself, and you don't even have to take care of yourself good, okay? You're going to live until you're 90 years old. So if you think life is over at 50, what are you going to do for those
next 40 years? Yeah.
I know, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And people, they seem to be able to look back 5 years, but it's hard for them to look forward 5 years. Then in 5 years, you can totally change your life around. In fact, if you're really serious, you can be a millionaire in 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
If that's your desire.
Yes, time is not the same as it was back in the day.
Right.
And thank you for saying that. One thing that I want to highlight that you were speaking about is, first of all, the market that you're going through, the way in which you are living your life, you are starting to want to explain it to other individuals because they do. Because I do lifestyle consulting and I do the retirement planning and I contend with when I speak to my clients, asking them questions like, okay, well, aren't you excited? Like, yeah, but you can see something on their face that's not all the way like, and once I maybe ask a couple of more qualifying questions, generally it's the fact that they're scared. They're fearful of this a lot of time that used to be for the job that's not going to be there.
Right.
And contrary to what you did, you started when you were in corporate world, and afterwards you just supercharged what you were already doing. Right. I think that's important because in your podcast and the market that you're doing and what going for, you and I spoke about the podcast is going to be to give information, but also to rally up individuals to get together, to actually talk about some of these subject matters, to get insight and resources and information.
Just to share the journey. Everybody's journey is going to be different, but some things are going to be the same, you know. And if everybody shared, then you don't have to go through some of the obstacles that maybe I went through, because I'm willing to share. I mean, and I found people that are willing to share. People think that people who are doing well, building well, they think that those people will not talk to them. Some of them won't, but a lot of them will, because it doesn't take away from anything that they're doing in order to share with you.
Yeah, yeah. And it takes a village.
Yes.
It's not just for children, it's ongoing.
Right.
It's when you get older, you want some of the children to take care of you. But if you haven't put in the time and the energy or the experience in building a relationship in your community and your family, then yeah, it's hard to turn it on later on. Sometimes it's about your health. Sometimes it's about the time that you don't have because you still got to work for more hours or longer years because you didn't necessarily do what you thought you was going to do. So let's speak to, we talked about the financial part. We talked about it's not just financial, it's really more about the lifestyle.
Just lifestyle, you know. What, you know, you sit and say, oh, I wish I could take vacations every year. Well, you can if you set up the program. You can take vacation. I mean, you get to choose what you want your lifestyle to be.
And when you take that vacation, you're not taking it by yourself because you cultivated relationships in these different organizations. I always say that when you retire, it's the first step of you starting your own business if you don't have one. Because you got this allotted time now. You have this time that you want to feel it.
And that's a concept that you mentioned business that people need to incorporate into their life, because your life is a business.
Okay.
If you run your life,
speak on it. Go ahead. Speak
like
on it,
a business, you will realize, because it's all about what's coming in, what's going out. Now everybody participate. They go to Macy's and everything. But if Macy's wasn't keeping up with what was coming in and what was going out, I don't think Macy's would still be around.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's flush that out a little bit. Your life is a business.
Yes, it is.
And so many times when people hear that statement, they may misconstrue what the business of it is. Let's just talk on that a little bit. In business, it is understanding supply and demand. Let's just start right there first. Supply and demand. That's how the universe works. That's how society works. Civilization is, if it's a supply, demand comes first, then the supply. Because people make up the culture that creates the demand. And then the demand should be filled by somebody. And then once it's filled, then we don't just leave it there. It still should be people coming behind us to make that better.
Right.
So it's an ongoing evolution of betterness, hopefully, in that particular subject matter or what have you. So my question to you is, when are you starting your podcast? That's one thing. What's the name of it? Let's just talk about it again.
Okay.
And then what is it that, and you want to talk to the audience about this, why should people want to hear you? And after they hear you, what would you like them to do? And I'm saying this because I'm setting
that's
it up.
a whole lot of questions.
I know. Because I know we talked a lot.
I know.
And I'm just trying to fill it in because we have talks about how many minutes it's been.
But anyway,
It's been 30 minutes.
All right.
And I started this 10 minutes after.
Okay.
So you see how fast it would go?
Okay.
Okay, but go ahead.
But anyway, I really just want to share my journey. I don't like to see people who think that life is over or they're overworked and underpaid, because there is a solution for all of that. But it starts with self. You know, if you're not willing to open up your mind to it, which is
Number
give,
one.
step number one, you have to be willing to want to learn. You have to be willing, and there's so many ways to learn nowadays. It just amazes me. You have the podcast. You have the audio tapes. You still have people who are meeting and greeting. You know, they have so many things virtually. I mean, it is just no reason why people can't expand their mind and have the lifestyle that they want to. But I want to share my journey, and I'm sure there's other people out there who want to share their journey. And between that, everybody would be able to exchange information and move on and quit complaining all the time. I do not like complainers.
Yeah, say that again.
I do not like complainers. Okay. I do not like complainers. In fact, I have affirmations for everything. When somebody tried to rain on my parade?
Well, that I'm glad you said that, because the support system is important as well. When you start doing these things and you start bringing individuals together,
Right.
You're stronger when it's more people than just leaving it up to yourself to be self. Now, it is a self first situation, meaning like you have to want to do something differently. Now, once you want, then it's up to you to be open to letting the environment show and consider what the environment is giving you. And you want to be open to doing new and different things too.
Right. And one of the things that I really want to express for people, I want my podcast so that they can see results. You know, people can give up so easily and everything like that. But I just tell people, just like if you're in debt, you didn't get in debt overnight. You got in debt over a period of time. And so anything that you want to do, it's not going to happen overnight. But this is life. You know, I mean, why wouldn't you do it? That's what I don't understand about people. I mean, are you not going to do nothing tomorrow? You're not going to do anything the next day or the next? I mean, you know, just do a little bit at a time. But people can change their life in reference to the lifestyle in a minimum of 6 months.
Yeah, and create these habits. And the habits sometimes and most time is being modeled off of your environment. And that means that it's good to change or be open to changing your environment. Now, Barbara, how can individuals get in contact with you? No, don't give me your phone number.
No,
Right.
no phone number. Don't have a phone number for you. But you can make contact with me now at bburson789@aol.com.
Spell it for them.
Again, bburson, BURSON789@aol.com. Because I'm looking forward to also doing some one-to-one. Because some people, they don't feel comfortable in a group sometimes. And I'm willing to even do one-on-ones. So, let's talk.
Yeah, I think how you put that in there. Give me some that.
Let's talk.
No, I appreciate you, Barbara. And I appreciate that they don't know your age. I just learned your age not too long ago. I just like that you can see young and older people, because it's some people older than you that still have something to give to the world, and we should let them know and create a space for that to happen.
Right, because, let me tell everybody, I'm in my new decade. I turned 70, 2023, and so, this is my new decade, and I've been living my best life for a long time.
Good job.
Even before 58, because once the secret that I found out wasn't a secret, I stayed happy all the time, and I've always been sort of a happy-go-lucky person. I don't understand why people want to be blah and everything, even at work. And that's another thing at work. I mean, if I really had a brick and mortar business, I would want my business to be the type of business that folks are almost standing in line to get hired.
Wow.
Because when my employees come out the building, they go say, man, we had a good time at work. So I don't know why the system wants to suppress you. But of course, they do want to keep you ignorant.
Yeah. Well, Barbara Speaks, and her podcast is going to speak on those things and a myriad of other things.
Right.
And I want to thank you and tell you that I appreciate you and I'm proud of you for going through with this. And I know that other individuals, young, old, need some of this information because we do. We need to see examples of ourselves. And anything you want to give out to the folks?
Well,
or say
first
something?
of all, let me not forget to thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
For giving me the opportunity, because it's a little scary, but I'm one of those people, like I say, I got an affirmation for everything. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's right. That's right. Mine was that I'm gonna leave one with you. It says, if you get into the habit of doing the things that you fear,
Right.
then the death of fear is certain.
Right.
If you get into the habit of doing the things that you fear, then the death of fear is certain. I love that because
I know. And then fear, what is it? False expectations appearing real.
Yep.
Like I say, honey, once I got on the road, nobody could stop me. I had affirmation for everything. Every time somebody tried to raid on my parade,
Yeah.
I say it's not gonna happen today.
It's artillery. That's
Yes.
your self-artillery
Yes.
that you put in place.
And that's all about mindset. The first thing, it doesn't cost you any money. The first step is open up your mind.
Perfect. Well, Barbara, thank you again.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for listening. I'm Kavan Ware. This is Barbara.
And I'm glad that everybody is here. And again, be Burson 789 at AOL.com. Let's talk.
Have a good one. Thank you.